This is Kyoto Station, an impressive station. Didn't realize Kyoto was this impressive a city, although I knew it was pretty substantially so. I'm just going to pan around so you can get a sense of this structure up above here. I don't know what it looked like but with me doing it this way with the camera, but now we're looking at the opposite end. And then radiating off on 2 or 3 floors are other businesses, etc., etc. So I'm just doing a bit of a walkabout on my first day here in Kyoto. I got here around 10. Spent a couple of hours, maybe 2.5, registering, sorting things out at my hostel, which was easy enough to find. And there's a bike path along the river here. I try to avoid McDonald's when I'm traveling. It looks like my hostel, I think, is right there. A little local store that just sells what looks like cracked corn, beans, grains, and so forth. Sunflower seeds. This looks like a cute little street right along this runoff area. A little more character than most of Japan. This I thought was going to be water, but in fact it's an extremely thin tea. Cha. Cha? Cha? This is a medium-sized curry bowl. Beef, because this is a beef shop. In theory, this should be the Higashi Honganji temple. I would imagine a city the size of Kyoto got bombed fairly heavily, but I really don't know without looking closely at the history. Nice doors. Now you have to assume this huge building is part of it, but it just looks like a giant warehouse. Ugly, in fact. It just is a big, huge building. But look how the metal building interjects itself right into the outlines of the revered temple. I'm in the very substantial purification kiosk for this incredible bit of dragon sculpture. If those were claws, you can just imagine that how bad it would be to tangle with this fellow. But these represent water or something that he's coming out of, I know. What's even more curious is this substantial building structure over another temple. Now it's possible this is just a very profound protection for that temple or building in there while they restore it. My guess is that's what it must be, but I mean it looks like a permanent building with steel girders and everything. It has that wonderful smell of incense. It almost looks like a turtle shell on that, doesn't it? Wouldn't be surprised. They that they've morphed together several animals. From a distance, this character looks elephantine. That seems to be a trunk. It may be tusks. It is apparently what the purpose is, to restore that temple. You can see it hidden back inside there. So looking at the size of that building, its height, its width and length, it's got to be one large building that they're restoring in there, and it must be a very complete restoration to justify this almost semi-permanent investment. Remembering that this was probably the greatest capital so far as power and dimension for its time in Japan, including Tokyo. You can only imagine the history of this structure here. And this is the entry gate, seen from the inside. Pretty flower. Huh. Impressive and understated. Large door. This is the mother temple of the Shinshu Otaniha, a branch of the Pure Land Buddhism called Shinshu Honbyo. So an earlier temple was built, but some other place. Now this in 1602, Tokugawa Ieyasu donated this site. But all these were rebuilt in 1895 after the Meiji period. One of the largest wooden buildings in the world, which there must be at least two in Japan, because I've read of another one that I saw in Nara, I think. This is the Kyoto station complex. Pretty huge. Pretty interesting architecture. Particularly that right there, which looks like a abstraction of a city looking down from, let's say, a building that's of intermediate height. There's a drive-through here, but it's limited in height, and they want you to observe that height because it's underneath the trains, and they also don't want you to endanger the trains, so they put this up, which means your vehicle's going to go down. You're not going to see any battered, smashed up cement here. Just one toasted car. Just imagine living here where it's those trains 24/7. Probably like Dave and Judy's planes, you just get used to it. Factor them out of your brain. Even those houses across the way have a look of what you'd think of in Pennsylvania, or a lot of those Appalachian coal towns. And yet that's it's a kind of a, I think, a cement-based finish that goes on there, and sheets. We are down at the "You Are Here" sign, but we came down here primarily not to visit this park, but to visit the locomotive museum. And over there, an aquarium with a show going on. Could be a pretty water feature, and probably was at one time, but the whole little park has lost its allure. Maybe it's just the day, I don't know, but this seems to be lacking. Although this is clever. It's a pretty water feature if they'd only have kept it up or keep it up and restore it.